Hey, good morning, everybody. Or good afternoon, I should say. It's about 12:55 on this Tuesday, January 19th. And I am off today. As a matter of fact, the way my schedule goes, I am off. Uh, well, I work tomorrow, but I'm off the next three out of the today and the next 2 days after tomorrow. Technically, the way my schedule is, I'm basically almost off, well, 3 full days, this day included. Most of tomorrow up to late afternoon, and then most of Saturday up to about six until about early evening. So yeah, I technically, in a sense, almost have 4 days off complete. But anyway, with that said, as you could see, I'm here to talk about um, the upcoming Sonic Summer Story Arc, Panic in the Sky. Now, this is also in addition to the Sonic Universe story arc, which is, excuse me, called Shattered. Now, as we know, in the last solicits that we got for 283, which will be in about the end of March into April, if I can pull those up here, basically we have the mission, and we have two separate stories. Now, here's what's funny about 283. 283 will be for the at least for the time being after 283. 283 will be the last, for the time being, the last issue of the Sonic the Hedgehog comic book that'll be split into two stories. Because starting with 284, we will have a 4-issue summer story arc called Panic in the Sky. So again, 283 coming in April and March, late March, early to mid-April, will basically be the last one for the time being, unless 285, 286, or 287 have something, but have backstories as well. But because I think, well, I'll get into this in a second. But basically, if you're used to the back, if you've gotten used to the two story format in the main comic, what it looks like is that's going to be held off until after Panic in the Sky. Now, Panic in the Sky, because I look at the solicits, and basically there's no mention of a second story after the main story. Basically, Panic in the Sky is going to be a 4-issue story arc. The whole comic, the whole issue itself, is going to be dedicated to this event during the summer. Sorry about that. But like I said, it's going to be dedicated to this whole event. Now, the shipping date is April 27th. The on sale date is May 11th. And what's great about this is Panic in the Sky is going to be the last chapter, the final chapter. The final chapter to the Shrouded World saga, basically the Shrouded World crisis and the Unleashed adaptation. And what's good, and basically here with the main issue, unless you get both covers, the variant cover, which has Eggman on there, you'll see it below here, that has Eggman on it. The variant cover has Eggman on it with him holding like a holograph of the world, pictures of of Sonic and Sally on one side, Bunny and Antoine, Chip and Nicole, Tails and Rotor, on separate little screens, and Eggman's holding the world. Again, you'll see it as you watch this video. He's holding the world in his hands, a holographic projection of the world, sort of still in pieces. Now, here's what the solicits say about 284. Here's what the solicits say, and I quote: Sonic and his friends get into some big capitalized on both words, Big Trouble in Panic in the Sky Part 1. Sonic's freedom fighters are finally ready to restore the planet. Unless, of course, someone does even more damage. Cue the evil Dr. Eggman, uh, quote, parentheses, quote unquote, of course. He has a plan of his own and strikes first. The Mad Doctor launches a multi-pronged assault that will leave you speechless. Everything has been building up to this moment. The final chapter to the Shattered World saga begins here. And of course, they say it features the first of four epic connecting covers by mega talent Dan Scoring and an evil wind variant by the wonderful Lamar Wells. So yeah, for the I guess since we don't have a crossover to get excited about, again, like I said, because we don't have a crossover between Sonic and Mega Man to get excited about, instead we will be getting a 4-issue finale to the Shattered World Crisis. Now, I was talking about how I believe this could go to 300. Apparently, that's not going to be the case. Apparently, 288 is the 287, I should say, is the goal. now, now, apparently, 283 and its mission story and 0 Hour stories, its mission and 0 Hour stories in 283 are like the prologue to Panic in the Sky. And I'm sure with 288 we'll get an epilogue as well. Now, I know a lot of people are probably wondering, what will happen after this is over? Well, Ian Flynn has basically said that he wants to explore other characters. He wants to look into depth with other characters, maybe give them some Sonic Universe arcs, maybe to do so. Or maybe even some backup stories in the main comic to do so. Well, here's what I see happening. I do see, like I've mentioned before, like I've mentioned and Ian Flynn has mentioned, I do see him doing that. I do see him exploring other characters. But this is what I also see. I do see a possible epilogue issue, maybe in 2 stories, maybe like with 283, it'll be 288 will be a 2-story epilogue issue, with the first story focusing on the freedom fighters and their reaction to what all went down and everything, and how they gotta basically prevent this from happening again. And then from Eggman's side of things, how he's gotta basically possibly rebuild from this and try to, you know, basically focus on Eggman and how he's going to try. I think basically the second story in 288, which I believe will be an epilogue, will focus on Eggman trying to rebuild from this. Basically, like, okay, what do I do next? How do I try to this time outwit the Freedom Fighters, outwit Sonic? How can I do it without them getting back at me, finding a way to beat me? So I think honestly that's what 288 is going to be. I think it's going to be a 2-story epilogue issue um, after this is all said and done. Now, I'm sure a lot of people are wondering exactly what is going to happen with Panic in the Sky. Well, of course, we all pretty much know the world's going to get saved. I mean, the only reason they do solicits like this is because if you're new, if you're new to the characters, you're new to the comic, they want to build your anticipation. Now, I'm not saying that in future solicits for 285, 286, 287, I'm not saying they're not going to say that something is going to happen to a character, or a character is going to do something, or something's going to happen that will basically be known as a bait or clickbait or reading bait to get us to get the issues digitally or physically to see what happens. I'm not saying that's not going to occur, because it will, but I'm also not saying that Ian Flynn wouldn't dare tease maybe a character disappearing or something like that. Like maybe they get thrown into another dimension and they have to spend another 4-8 issues in universe trying to get back or something. I'm not teasing. I'm not saying Ian Flynn. Hold on for a sec. Sorry about that. I had to get a drink of coffee there, clear my throat. But anyway, I'm not saying Ian Flynn's not going to tease, like I said, with solicits that something's going to happen in the future issues after that, that will basically be known as reading bait or bait to get us to digitally or physically get the issues to see what happens. I'm not saying Ian Flynn's not going to do that, because he just might do that, period. And I'm not saying he's not going to put in the solicits that somebody may quote unquote sacrifice themselves or make the ultimate choice or anything like that, because he will. He will. But basically, what it sounds like here from a storyline perspective with Panic in the Sky is Eggman is basically, it's being set up. Basically, this is the end of not just the Shadow World saga, but it's also the end of the Unleashed adaptation. And what's going to happen, in my opinion, is yes, we're going to get what a lot of people pretty much saw in Unleashed. We're going to get Supersonic or maybe Supersonic Werehog, whatever, going against Perfect Dark Gaia 2. That might happen, or that's probably going to happen. Now, do I see Eggman probably losing? Yes, I do. Do I see maybe the Freedom Fighters surrounding Eggman or Sonic in his Werehog super form or whatever, confronting Eggman and Eggman saying, "Hey," and wondering why he would, basically getting to a point. I mean, because I do see maybe this happening. I'm not saying it would, but I do see the Freedom Fighters and maybe Sonic in his super form, maybe Super Werehog form, whatever, confronting Eggman when it's all said and done, wondering why is he doing this? Why would he prevent them? What is it going to take? Egg and everything. And I think Eggman, he's finally just going to, being left with no choice, he's finally going to admit, because he'll probably see what he's done. And he'll probably finally admit, like, hey, look, all I want to do is conquer the world. But all I want to do is conquer this piece of property or this piece of the world or this thing or this. But you guys don't let me do that. You guys don't let me have a single victory. All I want is to conquer something, to be the ruler of something. I'm sure that might be something Ian might do. I'm not saying it's going to happen. And I'm pretty sure maybe the other thing is, and I've thought about this, and maybe Eggman just wants Sonic to admit he's the superior one. I don't know. It's basically, I think what's going to happen here, overall, in the end, is Eggman's going to lose. If you watch the adaptation, if you played the game of Unleashed, which I've played a little bit of, not much, you know that Sonic's going to win. You know the Freedom Fighters are going to win because, and you know for a fact nobody's going to get killed off or anything, because why would you bring characters back for, why would you bring these characters back in the past few years, do some origin stories on them, focus Sonic Universe story arcs on them, side stories on them? Why would you do that just to kill them off? You wouldn't. And so I don't think we have to worry about anybody dying off here. Because if they did that, they would have killed off, even if it was just temporary, they would have killed off the Freedom Fighters in the World's Unite crossover, and they didn't. So I don't think we have anything to worry about there. Because it sounds like to me what Ian Flynn wants to do is at least keep some elements of Sonic Sat AM in the comics, basically make it a mixture with the game, so it kind of is a compromise to please everybody. But, again, Panic in the Sky looks interesting, and I'm definitely going to read it. And all I can say is my personal opinions is my personal thoughts and opinion is they I mean, it's obvious they're going to win unless they throw a twist at the end, which it's not uncommon. a twist in the end or during the story, which again, like I said, is not uncommon. So, that it'll be really interesting. It'll be very, very interesting to see what they do because, like I said, it's not uncommon. They might throw a twist in during the story or at the end of the story. It's not that uncommon. And like I said earlier, it's not uncommon to throw in a solicit, kind of teasing that something might happen to a character or a character might do something that might affect things. Again, it's not that uncommon. So, but again, what I do see though is the aftermath. Is we're going to get 288, I believe, is going to be a two-story epilogue issue. One story focusing on the freedom fighters and how they can prevent this from happening again, or something like this from happening again. And on the other side, and in the other story, we'll focus on Eggman and him rebuilding his Eggman army. Because you can't tell me that during Panic in the Sky, you're going to have some of his reluctant egg bosses leaving him. Because think about the solicits here. He launches a multi-prong attack. All right, multi-prong attack. Basically to kind of distract the freedom fighters from trying to restore the world. So he's launching a multi-prong attack. Do you not think it's not going to fit with some of his reluctant egg bosses who are good, who have good hearts and everything, and are only trying to protect their people? Do you not think it's not going to sit well with them? Of course it's not. I could see Cassie and Clove. I could see Nephis, and maybe a few others going like, "Hey, this wasn't part of the deal. You lied to us." I mean, Cassie and Clove. I mean, Clove already knows that he's a liar, but I can see Nephis and going like, "Hey, this wasn't part of the plan. He lied to us." I can see someone like because if you look at 283's cover, you see Sonar, you see Spike, you see those freedom fighters they encountered in the more recent issues. So I think what's going to happen is like you're going to have them realize along with Nephis, hey, this wasn't part of the plan. This was you know this wasn't part of the plan. Everybody was right. Eggman's nuts. He lied to us. So I could see him trying to rebuild his army. I could see Eggman trying to rebuild his army and go like, you know what? No more good-hearted people as my egg bosses. I'm gonna make sure I have egg bosses that are ruthless, power hungry, that want power, that want control. I could see maybe a second epilogue story in 288, along with the first one being focused on Eggman rebuilding himself, rebuilding the egg army, and probably getting some new egg bosses that are not so good and good at heart. That have ruthlessness, have aggressiveness, that will do whatever it takes to achieve victory and conquest and stuff like that. I could see him. I could see a story, an epilogue story of that kind, of that measure of that kind occurring in 288, along with the first epilogue story, which, in my opinion, is going to be focused on the freedom fighters, kind of celebrating, but also realizing, okay, how do we take care of this? And maybe the second story will have them. Maybe that epilogue story will also have them interact with the now ex-egg bosses and be like, look, Eggman is always going to be a threat. And no matter what you try to do, or no matter what you think's the best, you always got to be ready for him. I've got a feeling that after Panic in the Sky, the epiloguing, which I think, like I say, is going to be two epilogue stories in 288, is going to continue on, and basically the Freedom Fighter one, in my opinion, if that happens, you're going to have them basically kind of showing people like Nephesis and her friend Sonar, Spike, and Trevor, or whatever his name is, as well as Cassie and Clove. Look, there are always other options. And sometimes the option of fighting for what you believe is right, fighting for the freedom of the planet, for the safety of this planet and your people, is the best option. Sometimes that is the best way to do it. And you don't always have to feel like you don't have any other options. This is the option. It's either this or you let this guy run over you. So I could see maybe Cassie, Clove, Nephesis, and Sonar, Spike, and Trevor maybe forming a freedom fighter group out of this as well as part of the epilogue to help continue the fight against Eggman. So that's what I feel is going to be like the aftermath to Panic in the Sky. Now, do I think it's going to be a big? Now, do I think it's going to measure up to maybe other past arcs? Finale arcs or mega arcs, like Countdown to Chaos or the Worlds Unite or anything. Do I think it's going to measure up? I don't really know. It all depends on what Ian Flynn has in store. Because, like I said, he is going to use the solicits to basically tease certain things happening or certain characters doing things and all that. So, I do see that. But in my personal opinion, I believe, honestly, my personal opinion, I believe, um, I basically look at it this. I basically believe that this might be good, but it's all going to depend. I mean, the covers and the solicits make it sound like it's going to be a good one for the summer, but I think it's all going to depend on how the writing and the characters are utilized, are done, are utilized. Like, how is the plot going to really come out of this? How is Perfect Dark Gaia 2 going to come? Should they do? I mean, because obviously it looks like that character will. So what's going to be the aftermath? And again, I really look at like 288, and I know I sound like a broken record. I do apologize. The 288 is going to be a two-part epilogue stories. I really do. Now, do I see them, kind of starting out fresh a little bit? After that? Oh, absolutely. Why? I mean, why do you think? Why do you think they started doing these two story issues in the main comic? Because after Panic in the Sky is done, that's going to be one of the main focuses is to do two stories each that kind of connect with each other, and like I say, they kind of connect with each other to the point that when we do another one of these, it'll all come together. Now, as far as Shattered, now you're probably thinking, well, what about Sonic Universe? What about that Shattered arc we're hearing about? Well, Shattered is going to be a Knuckles Amy arc, and it's basically focused on Knuckles and Amy finding the last of the remaining pieces of the Master Emerald. Now, the way I see it tying in, because I know some people are like, well, now I know some people are thinking it's going to tie in, or will it tie in with Panic in the Sky? And I believe it will. Because basically, even though Shattered is supposed to come out a little before Panic in the Sky, it's going to tie in somehow. Now, is there a possibility that Shattered is going to probably spoil the ending for Panic in the Sky? Probably. Probably. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Uh, but it's something we just got to expect. I mean, let's face facts. This is not uncommon, especially with Ian Flynn. Ian Flynn's how many issues has it been now? He's going on 20 issues. It's his near 2 year run. Well, not 2 years. Yeah, I think it's been 2 years, hasn't it? No, not 2 years. What am I talking about? Um, his near 120-month run. That's what I was talking about. I'm sorry. His near 120-month run, which I think. Hold on for a sec. Sorry about that. Accidentally paused it, but which I think, if I can Google it here, 120 months. I know 24 months is 2 years. I know that for a fact. Oh, sorry, my finger hit the mic there. Okay, let's see here. But like I said, it's not uncommon during his 120-month or 120 issue run, or as we get to this, be about 128 issue run on. Excuse me. Sorry. Um, well, almost a decade. Wow. His near decade run on the comic. That's pretty impressive. But like I said, it's not uncommon in his near decade run with the comic because of the fact that we've seen it when he did the Iron Dominion arc, and pretty much an issue later, it was spoiled. Sonic Universe Journey to the East was spoiled, pretty much. So it's not uncommon. So the question's going to be, you know, how much is it going to tie into it? Well, I think what's going to happen is maybe he's going to have some scenarios in the issue where Amy and Knuckles will experience some kind of reaction to what's going on in Panic in the Sky, and that's going to, of course, if you read Universe and not the main comic that much, that's going to make you want to look at the main comic and see what's going on. But still, you'll probably see some reactions from what's going on. They'll probably see something going on around the area and stuff, and probably keep in contact with like Sally and Sonic and see what's happening. So, yeah, I do see a connection there, and I do see it being like a time issue kind of scenario involving both comics. And I'm not talking release time of the issues. I'm talking more like story from a story perspective. It's going to be more of a timing, like all of a sudden here's Knuckles and Amy. They've got the final piece of the emerald. They're piecing it all back together, and at the same time, the Freedom Fighters are restoring the planet. So basically, it's going to be a restoration process. It's not restoration, but it's going to be a time issue in the story. So it's like, will they basically both make it in time to restore the planet and keep Angel Island afloat? Which obviously, let's face it, they will. But again, though, that's basically what Shattered is. And I know a lot of fans are kind of happy that Amy is not in the main comic right now and she's in the Universe arc with Knuckles, and that's great. And I know some people are not too thrilled with getting another Knuckles arc, but when you think about it, it's something a little different because it's not just a Knuckles arc, it's a Knuckles and Amy Rose arc. So that's a little bit different there. Uh, but overall, I'd have to say that this is going to be a very interesting summer for the Sonic comics. Uh, again, I'm pretty sure we'll be spoiled by the end of Universe of exactly what happens, unless they switch it out. Unless we get an ending for Shattered that has Knuckles and Amy getting all the Emerald shards, piecing the Emerald together, but also wondering, will Sonic and them make it in time? Oh, something's going to happen. Basically, you're going to have a connection there where it's, like I said, it's going to be a timing issue, and maybe you'll have Knuckles and Amy get the Emerald, but then thinking, wondering if Sonic and them have succeeded in, getting what they needed so they can all get things back to normal. We'll just have to wait and see. But my personal opinion, like I said, I think it's going to be a very intriguing summer. Expect solicits to say certain things, like I mentioned earlier, about certain things happening and characters probably making decisions or doing things. Expect those. Expect maybe a twist in the story or maybe at the end of the story or something. I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't think so. I wouldn't be surprised though if it happens, but hopefully it doesn't. And I don't really think it will, because why would you want to put a twist ending to basically a 4-issue story arc that pretty much a lot of fans since last year, if not the year before, have been wondering, when is it going to end? And I guess in a sense, when Shadow World ends, this arc ends in 287, I guess this is essentially Ian Flynn. This is my opinion. I think the Shadowed World Unleashed adaptation is Ian Flynn making up for the fact that he couldn't get the Mecha Sally Death Egg Mark II World Tour 2 arc completed the way he wanted. So that's where Shadowed World came in. Basically, it makes up. Basically, the Shadowed World Unleashed adaptation arc is making up for what he couldn't do with the Mecha Sally arc. I'm just saying. It's just my personal opinion on that. But again, I don't. But again, hopefully, I don't think there will be a twist or anything during the story or in the arc. I don't think there will be. Or at the end of it, I don't think there will be. I do believe, in my opinion, maybe I'll be wrong, but I do believe we will get a 288 as a two story epilogue issue, two epilogue stories. Uh, I guess that's how you pronounce epilogue. I'm sorry if I pronounced it wrong during this audio video, but I believe we're going to get two post uh, shattered world story arc. I mean stories, kind of like I say, focusing on both ends of the spectrum. So that's really what I think is going to happen with the Panic in the Sky arc and everything. That's basically my thoughts on it. What I think we're going to probably be expecting. What I believe we're going to probably get teased with as far as solicits and everything. What I believe is going to happen afterwards, and how I look at Shattered World connecting, and how I see other characters like Cassian Clove, Nephesis, Spike, Sonar, and all of them reacting to what Eggman's doing. Now, do I see Dulcie and Loop coming back in this? Absolutely. So, but those are just my thoughts on Panic in the Sky, on the Sonic the Hedgehog summer story arc, the summer story arc, Panic in the Sky. So, those are my thoughts on the Sonic's summer arcs, Panic in the Sky. So, let me know what you guys think down below. I'll provide a link to the descriptions if you've not seen them yet. I will, of course, you'll see the covers here. Let me know what you guys think. What do you think is going to happen afterwards? What do you think is going to happen during? And how do you think Shattered, the Sonic Universe Knuckles Amy arc, is going to connect somehow? And do you think we'll get a spoiler at the end of that, at the end of that, spoiling the ending of Panic in the Sky? Let me know what you guys think down below. Comment if you like. Sorry this audio video went long.